Welcome to the Passion and Persistence Podcast. I'm your host, Elena Mitchell, bringing you open and honest discussions with some of the best leaders in business and spirituality. This podcast was designed with you in mind. I know that self-evolution and business growth can be a lonely road. I'm just here to remind you that you're not alone. With passion and persistence, anything is possible. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Passion and Persistence Podcast. I'm your host, Elena Mitchell, and today we have a very special guest that's been a long time coming, so I'm so thankful that he's joining us here today. His name is Eran Bucai, and he is a business coach, specifically in the tech space. Welcome, Eran.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to dive a little bit deeper into your story and pull some pieces of gold out for our listeners. So with that being said, thank you so much for being here. And I'm curious, let's jump right to the main question. What is passion to you?
I think whatever gets you out of bed, I guess, in a positive way, typically. I think you can have things that get you out of bed for a negative reason because you're like, something that makes you angry. But I think something that gets you out of bed and motivates you to really do things that are maybe uncomfortable, maybe difficult, and that you're excited about, that you're thinking, okay, in 50 years, I'm going to be really happy that I did that. Something that's really kind of drives you. I feel that's kind of a good way to say it.
I love that answer. Yeah, because sometimes anxiety can get us out of bed early, and that's never a good feeling either, So definitely something that fires you up and lets you know that you're working towards a bigger picture. Love, love, love that. Yeah. So with that being said, do you feel like you're working in your passion today?
I think that for the most part I am. And even when I'm not, I feel that I try to always align it with the passion because I think it's pretty much impossible to be at all times with it. Things happen in life, and as long as I can align it with the main passion, I feel that I can kind of still make it the main thing. So like me personally, it's helping people. To me, that gets me excited, and I'm in the tech space. I've had people say, you're so passionate about technology, and I'm like, I'm not really that passionate about technology, but I'm passionate about the fact that by helping entrepreneurs, coaches, experts with their tech stuff, that means they can do their skills and their expertise, and they can share their things with the world, things that I wouldn't have a clue where to start, but they're helping a lot of people with their things. So that's what I'm thinking about, not my customers, but the customers they're serving, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And so what got you into this tech space specifically? Were you into tech as a child?
No, not at all. It was just literally a business mindset of like, I need to make a living somehow. And I was just, I tried, I remember being in a 9-to-5 job, and I'll tell you, there was a specific moment, I think it was after 5 months into a job, and I got my paycheck, and I remember thinking, I felt the comfort of getting that salary. And I was like, this is a drug. It's either going to be, a comfort that I'm just going to continue to have. And I was like, I could really see why people end up in a job for their whole life. And it's okay. But I was like, it's either I'm going to like continue taking that drug, or I gotta, rip the Band-Aid and get out as soon as I can, because this is not a drug I want in my life at all. I'm going to have something that I'm going to be comforted with, but I do not want it to be a paycheck, basically. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great mindset to have to figure out at an early age. A lot of people do get stuck in that hamster wheel of that paycheck, and they don't even realize how much more is beyond that ceiling they're trapping themselves under. And somebody listening or watching this podcast might feel the same way. Maybe you're in a 9-to-5 and you just know you're destined for more. Eran and so many other entrepreneurs out there have proven to themselves and others that you can have more in life. You can chase bigger dreams and help others along the way. That really is the goal that you're getting from the bigger chase, is helping others along the way. So I really, really love that. So tell me a little bit more about your upbringing and then where it led you into the entrepreneur space.
Yeah, totally. So I grew up in Israel, but I moved to Australia when I was 16. And I remember listening to your podcast. I don't know which one it was, but it was one where you talked about your story and you're like going really deep and stuff like that. And you know, like obviously the whole point of your podcast to obviously inspire and stuff like that. And it's so like inspiring to have, you went through a totally different life. You got, we all control our own destiny, but if things are out of our control can control our destiny as well. It's always a mixture. It's always somehow intertwines. I was always really fortunate from the perspective that I mean, I didn't come from a wealthy family at all. It's not like we were rich, like none of that stuff, but I had good parents. I had really good parents, really good upbringing. They made me really independent from the very beginning. They were really good with me to make my own decisions and also work. Like I was never given any handout from my parents, like at all. Like if I wanted to go get some food outside and like buy something out, be like, yeah, cool. So you're gonna, do something like you do the dishes, you're gonna make your bed. Like there's always an exchange factor that was forced on me in a really positive way. You know what I mean? And I always knew that I was really fortunate because of that perspective. So I really had nothing to complain about, to be honest. I mean, we all had our issues, I was pretty shy as a kid, things like that. Like everybody has their thing, but all in all, I'm really very, very fortunate. And yeah, and I left school really early. I just wasn't for me, honestly. Like after year 9, I told my parents, I said, like, I'm sorry, this isn't just not for me. Like I'm so out of there, and it was legal to get out, so I left school. And I knew, high school 3 years. In Israel, you go to the military for 3 years. And then university is typical 4 years. And in my mind, I'm like, it's 10 years out of my life. There's no way I'm doing this. So I told my parents, like, I want to leave. And the only way not to go to the military is to leave the country. So I left when I was 16. And they blessed me in leaving the country on my own. So it's pretty crazy, really.
That is so amazing. It's almost mind blowing for me because I just didn't realize the culture and the requirements of being in the military after you said it's 4 years of high school, then military, then college. What was the order?
So 3 years of high school, 3 years of military, and 4 years of, university, whatever. That's the traditional way. For girls, it's 2 years military, by the way. It kind of shifts between a year and a half, 2 years. So it's boys and girls, right? So yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. That is such a mind-blowing.
I know.
Like, I just cannot believe that. So you got away, but you had the blessing of your parents. That must have been a huge weight off your shoulders to know that your family is supporting this new path that you're paving. Was it out of the norm for the rest of your family? Had anyone else in your family ever decided to leave like that and go off of that route?
Not to the extreme that I did, right? Not to the extreme. Like it's definitely like it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is normal to our family. Like this was like, you what? But honestly, like I think they really did like do a good job making me independent, maybe a little bit too independent, you know what I mean? So I was like ready to go. And I moved to Australia, which is not close, obviously, So I moved to Australia, which is like 2 flights away, pretty much. And I ended up in Australia, and I lived there ever since, pretty much, up until 7 months ago, where I started traveling full time. So,
so the Australian culture must have been extremely different from the Israeli culture, right? What's the difference, the main difference that you noticed?
Well, look, Israel, I mean, everybody's stressed to some degree, it's a small country, it's always a survival mode. Australia is just so chilled, everything is just chilled in Australia. It's like, it's all like, should be right, mate. It's all very like, just chilled out. You don't have enemies around you wanting to kill you. You know what I mean? So you just don't have that same thing. I mean, you have kangaroos and you have wild animals. It's just a different,
totally different, world. And so totally do you think the new environment cultivated inspiration in you that then made you want to do other things within business? Do you think environment had something to do with that?
No, because the business came way later, to be honest. The business came a lot later. When I moved to Australia, I actually, like, we had a family member who helped me get a visa. I moved to Australia mostly at the time because visa. I actually tried to go to the US. I tried to go to England, but I'm a 16-year-old kid. Who the hell's going to take me going on your own? Like, it's just so odd. You know what I mean? And I mean, it was right after September 11. I don't know if it had something to do with it, but still it was odd. And also I actually was quite short. I didn't actually grow till later. So you have this little kid trying to get a visa to go to a foreign country on its own. I mean, it's pretty weird. You know what I mean? So we had a family friend who hooked me up with the visa in Australia. So I never ended up going to the embassy, and I ended up going to Australia. And then I ended up doing volunteer work for 14, 15 years almost until I was 30. That's all I've done, volunteer work the whole time. And it was only once I finished the volunteer commitment that I discovered my entrepreneurial blood, that I, went independent, and by necessity, really. But, I was already kind of into business. I felt that I just, being in the volunteer world, I did feel like, because I joined obviously because I wanted to help people, but I felt I hit a ceiling to some degree. And in my mind, I was like looking at the world and I was like, people with money are the ones that can, not necessarily that they're making a difference. Those that have money can do a lot of more things that I just wasn't able to do. I felt like I'm in a cog in, I was a cog in a machine, if it don't make sense, like I was a piece of a thing, but I wanted to be the one that I want to be a decision maker and doing things that I feel, I could put my resources into whatever I feel is going to make this world better.
Yes, that is so amazing and inspiring. And so when you did first take those steps into the entrepreneurial space, and was it coaching at first out of the gate? Like, how did you get into the whole, tell me.
Yeah, there's two things. Number one, I observed that people with real estate have money. That's who I noticed have money. So I went to YouTube and I was watching Grant Cardone, and just watching his YouTube stuff all the time, and I remember, I think it was New Year's Eve, 2017. I bought my first business books. I bought the Millionaire Booklet on New Year's Eve, and I was like, I'm going to buy, and I'm going to, you know what I mean? So it was like this New Year resolution. I remember, reading this book at at midnight, coming New Year's resolution, everybody's partying. And I'm like reading the Millionaire Booklet sitting in McDonald's, you know what I mean? Just like trying to learn about the millionaire mindset and stuff like that. And then I started with real estate videos. And then I also had a friend who was in the mergers and acquisition space, M&A. That was the company that they're kind of part of. And I was just fascinated about that world. So I was just watching YouTube videos nonstop on those two topics. And I stumbled across an ad in one of Grant's videos. I remember it vividly, right? It was one of Grant's videos. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was like, start an online business with no money down. I could even show you the ad. Like I could literally go to YouTube. I could find the ad. I could show you the ad. Like I could show you the whole thing. And it was the first time I saw something like that. I was like, hang on, online business. What's that? Like I just had no idea. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on Facebook. I didn't do anything like, I was out of touch with all that world. And, I just came across this concept. And I remember registering for a webinar. It was the first funnel that I've ever entered my name and email to ever. You know what I mean? Like it was like this whole thing. I mean, just to give you, it's such a funny anecdote as to how green I was. I remember getting the email registration for joining the webinar. And I'm like, oh, wow, somebody emailed me. So I'm like replying, hey, thanks for the registration information. I really appreciate it. Thinking there's a real human there sending it to me. I mean, I was green as, you know what I mean? So it took me about a few days to realize, this is not a human writing this to me,
Oh, and now you help set those up for other people, right? Yeah. Those funnels and systems and processes. That's right. Really like that. And to anybody listening or watching, curiosity is what led him here. He had a curiosity, went looking for the information, and that led him down other paths to his ultimate destination of entrepreneurship. So tell me more about once you got into that space, what road bumps did you hit along the way? Because we all face those when we first get into new paths.
Totally. I mean, I think in the online space particularly, and it's hard to say that there isn't anybody who's not in the online space. It's getting to that point where really, if you're not in the online space, where are you? Unless you really have a physical business, right? Where it's just like a restaurant, and that's just a local kebab shop and people just go there because it's central, you know what I mean? Like you really do need to have social media presence. And to me, it's a lot of the hype, a lot of the hype about social media, and a lot of the fakeness that goes around with it, and a lot of the pretense, and, a lot of the BS, because you just don't know who to trust. It's really difficult, right? And you just really don't know. And until you really rub shoulders with people in closeness, like sometimes I remember like going to a conference maybe 6 months ago or something like that. It was only 6 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that. And it was a bit of a creator conference, and I see a lot. I mean, there's people like a big following, and we talk, and then in person, I mean, these people are broke, right? And they're happy. That's cool. It's not like they're unhappy, but they don't have money. Like they're not in a good position financially. They haven't built a business. They just have nice following. They're obviously great, amazing creators, and that's great. But if you're trying to start a business online and make a living online, like you got to really be careful as to who you listen to, because you could just be listening to somebody who's really, really genuinely just sharing clout, or they're just not, everybody's got a different definition. Even when people say, I work really hard, it's like, well, what's your definition of working hard? You just don't know until you see the person. It's not even they're lying. They just have a different mentality on what's working hard. You know what I mean? So,
or what good money is to them. Some people think making a certain amount is good, and then other people are like, what? You know what I mean? So I totally agree with all of that. And when I first got into the business space, my dad used to always warn me, watch out for people. This will happen. But you have to really experience it firsthand before you actually take that advice and understand it. So meeting those people and seeing the show behind the veil, right? Because we all are presenting the best version of ourselves online. We all have flaws and other things we need to work on. And that's something everybody listening or watching should remember. Don't compare yourself or glorify other people that you're seeing, because they have their flaws and issues too. That's a great point to make. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So now you're kind of like knee deep into this entrepreneurial space. You're coaching people. You have memberships, right? Is that right? Memberships, coaching programs. Are you putting content on YouTube at this point?
Yeah, I do YouTube a lot. I do between 10 to 20 videos on YouTube per month. Wow. So I do a tremendous amount of content. I got a full-time video editor that does my editing. And but I have a very unique business model. And also, I don't even like say I coach people, because I do coach people, but I like to disassociate myself from the coaching space because there's so much fakeness in it. I love the fact that, it's just so much fakeness. It's ridiculous. Like I love what you do. Like I've been following you probably for 2 years, I reckon, at least. But I love what you do because you're a freelancer, and I love those that are freelancing. They're in the trenches. To me, I want to listen to you because you're getting freaking customers daily. You're doing clients meetings. You're dealing with software again. You're doing the branding. You're doing this. And it doesn't matter if you're in my niche or not. To me, that's a real business owner who's actually doing freaking work. Whereas there's a lot of people, they're not doing work. To me, that's not, they do work, but they're out of touch. They're teaching something that worked 2 years ago. And, like things change so much. How could you teach that? It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And you have to be in the trenches. And to me, that's where I don't know anybody that can genuinely just be a coach, period. It's really difficult. I really prefer to just take snippets from existing business owners who are in the trenches and learn from that. I'll tell you a little example on something that I learned from you, right? And this is, you probably have zero association with that. Like if I was to tell you, Elena, take 10 guesses right now on what I learned from you, you will not get it right. There's no chance. Okay. I'll tell you what it is now. I don't need your answer. So there was a point, I think it was 2 years ago. And I remember seeing you did some rebrand on your website, which you've done a few times or whatever, but you had a new website and you had a little snippet of audio on your homepage. It was like a 15 seconds. Hey, it's Elena, whatever, like a little thing. It was just a small little thing. And I remember seeing that and I was like, oh, that's actually really freaking good. It's really good. But I was like, 15 seconds, it's not enough to really I was like, but I like the concept. So I was like, okay, what if I put, instead of a sales video, I do a sales audio? So I took my WhatsApp and I recorded a 2 minutes sales pitch on whatever that, I think it was my software consultation, which was my main lead generation funnel, which is basically I'm telling people, you want to start an online business? I'm going to help you with your software, basically, and choose the right software for your business, whatever that is, for your online course or your membership or your funnel, whatever. So it was like a 2 minutes pitch saying, hey, my name is Eran. I've been working online since blah, I know you're really busy. And the audio literally said, too busy to read this page, click here for a under 2-minute message. And my salesman, if you go to my sales pages, a lot of them have this 2-minute, like, here you go, here's a little audio format on the blah. And that actually came as inspiration from seeing your little audio.
I love that so much. I have a theory that audio is the future of social media. So you heard it here first. But yeah, I love that inspired me. So cool. And I love that you put your own spin on it. And that's really what it's all about is, collaborating on those creative ideas to help serve people. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my
Do you remember that?
Yes.
You remember having that audio, right?
Yes, I have a few on my website now that I need to go switch out because they're so old. I need to update my own website as much as I do my clients. I always forget about myself. So yeah, that's so amazing.
Be honest, would you have guessed? Would you have guessed?
I would have guessed it was Airtable.
You would. Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah. Totally.
Religiously. So yeah. So what would you say is your best platform to show up on and serve?
Yeah. I mean, so for me, it's all okay. Let's call a spade a spade. Social media is such a time sucker, right? Like it's ridiculous, right? And you gotta really put differentiation. I think for me, I'm kind of fortunate in that I really genuinely was not on social media before starting an online business. I didn't have a Facebook account. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have nothing. It just wasn't in my consciousness that these things even exist. Really, like I was just so out of touch with that because I just did my volunteer work. I just had no idea, right? Like it just wasn't. I mean, I would have heard about it, but it's not like I know what it is. You know what I mean? It was really just like whatever. And the only reason I started it for the first time was when I started an online business. So like, I'm not even connected to my mom. She's not even a Facebook friend because you know what I mean? I mean, I don't have Facebook from family. Like, it's just not what it's for. So I'm gonna get a friend request from my mom. I'm like, Mom, why are you sending me a friend request? You're not a customer. Like this is not what it's for, you know? So I think I have a very hard line between that. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not a human on social media because you have to be if you're going to build a personal brand. I do put what I'm personally liking. Like I'm traveling at the moment. I like soccer. I like chess. I do post about, like things that I do like about, like, so it's not like I'm not a human, but at the same time, there was a very clear distinction from the very get-go that this is what it's for. So wherever I'm going to be the most profitable and where not just the return on investment, but the return on effort, right? To me, that's where I'm going to be where I'm most comfortable with. And I can tell you, like me finding customers when I started 3.5 years ago, when I started online 5 years ago, the first year and a half was long story short, school of hard knocks, then 9-to-5 job. Then 3.5 years ago, like I started doing the freelancing, which is why I say like it's a real business on. Like I started doing freelancing rather than network marketing, bloody blah, pyramids, BS, old shiny object business opportunities, garbage. It was only 3.5 years ago, but I was like, okay, I'm freelancing. Like this is amazing. I started with Shopify sites actually. That's how I started. And the thing about that particular transition is that the customers I found was on Facebook, other people's Facebook groups. So that was my favorite because that's where I found customers, right? And still to this day, it's one of my favorite places. Then Instagram, I like to engage with people and see people and meet interesting people. I don't get a lot of customers. It's really like just whatever. It's just a clout BS, honestly. And I just like to engage and consume content there. I'm enjoying Threads, to be honest. So, Threads just come out. Maybe by the time somebody's watching this, it might be a graveyard platform, but I'm kind of enjoying the text, based of it. And YouTube, I really like YouTube because YouTube has the searchability and the evergreen aspect and the searchability. And I just love that aspect, which is not something. Facebook is great for cash flow. YouTube is great for longevity. That's kind of how I see it, basically. So yeah, I love YouTube because of that.
That's a great breakdown of all of it. And I too found success in the freelance space in Facebook groups initially when I first started. It's a great place to start discussions, and it's a great place to promote yourself if you learn how to do it in a roundabout way. You can't really just be, posting like, hey, come and hire me, but responding to discussions or giving people help. It really does big clients for sure.
Yes,
Great tip. Yes, I love that. And yeah, Instagram is definitely falling off of a lot of people's lists of favorites right now. And I think it has a lot to do with visual pollution and the fakeness that everybody's portraying. Everyone wants to be picture perfect, like the guru of everything, know it all, and we're all not that. You know what I mean? And I think Threads gives us a little more wiggle room, so to speak, to be real and authentic, more personality involved. So yeah, I love that evolution of social media. It's interesting though, because it's so addictive. And I love that you are very time conscious. You plan out your day, or you take your sorry, let me decline that. I'm going to say that again so I can cut this out. But I love that you plan your days around the fact that you don't want to be distracted. So you keep certain notifications on silent. I need to learn that without a doubt. So did it take you a long time to learn to do that? Like, were you deep into the addiction of social media, or getting those notifications to where you're like, listen, I need to cut this addiction and change it? What happened there?
I think like anything in business and online, even if you kind of know at the beginning, knowing and the coin dropping and really realizing and really implementing all that, there is always that transition. So because I didn't, these guys who play video games and stuff like that, like I haven't played a video game since I'm 14. You know what I mean? Like I don't touch anything. I know it's addictive. I know it's not good for me. I know it's not good for anybody. Like, it's just not a good thing. Alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. Like, I know it's just not, I've never heard anybody that says, oh, you're missing out. Even someone who's an alcoholic, I've never seen anybody say you're missing out. So I know there's certain addictions. I'm like, I'm just not going to go there. It's just not a part that I want to take part of, period, And the same thing with the scrolling, but the scrolling is difficult because you have to be there to find customers, so you have to really put boundaries on it. And to me, like, I think, once you kind of hone in on your passion and dive back into your passion, I think you got to figure out those things that's going to get you out of it. Because to say, I'm not going to get stuck into the scroll hole, that's very difficult, because that's just a negative. You got to figure out what's the other thing you're going to spend on. So, one thing that I've found really helpful, at least, especially at the beginning, and I try to maintain that mentality, was because I started working on, like, when I was like in my 30s, like I've never made any money before that. Like, you gotta understand, like I did volunteer work. I've never had a paycheck of like real money. Like they gave me my food and accommodations, and I never made any money. So when I get in my 30s, in my mind, I'm like, I'm 12 years behind everybody else, right? And I'm calculating how much time I need to catch up on. So I was like, I don't have time for anything. I'm just like, just straight up, just hardcore focus, So I really like that focus. And even now, I don't think I'm that behind, because I don't think people really worked for 12 years. Even if they had 12 years, they didn't work. They mostly partied, or they, did whatever, It's not like people have 12 years of focus. So I feel I've done a good job catching up, but I still try to maintain that, like, no, I've got 12 years. I'm 12 years behind, just to maintain that, stay that conscious level of necessity.
It's so important. And I love the tip that you gave. I hope everybody caught that. Definitely rewind if you didn't. But he said to not focus on what you don't want to do, but focus what you're going to fill that void with, so that you don't do that thing. So doom scrolling, what are you going to do instead? I'm definitely taking notes on that for sure. Because one thing I cut out of my life completely is television. I used to put on the TV and do my work and get distracted by watching TV instead of working. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have my computer out. So I don't do TV anymore, but scrolling is definitely something I personally have an issue with, because I also have a social media company. So it's like I'm literally like caged into that. But I'm going to take your advice and fill the time with other things to be more productive. Totally. So thank you so much for that information. I love that. Okay, so where are you at now with your vision? Where do you want to take all of this?
So look, it's funny, because in terms of vision, nothing has changed dramatically from what it was 5 years ago when I first, started looking to make money. I always just wanted to make a lot of money so I could help a lot of people. Because to me, I could do a lot of good in the world if I have a lot of money. And it doesn't mean that I can't help until then. That's why I love business, because, the more people, there's a quote from the Millionaire booklet, which I really like. And he said, if you want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people, right? And, there's a quote there about that. And I really like that. And, I just like that concept that really the more people you can help, the more money you will have. And I really like that. And there is also an element of untruth because, a lot of people in the world don't have any money to give you. So you need to make money from elsewhere to be able to help them. So there's that. But if the mission stays that, to me, it's the same. And, when I think about making money and helping a lot of people, it's not like, oh, I'll make money, I'll just donate it all. I'll probably, by the time I kick the bucket, I'll probably donate it all, give it all away or whatever. But there's just so many great startups in the world. There's so many great entrepreneurs that, there's probably a lot of very talented entrepreneurs who are doing a business they're not necessarily passionate about, but they have to because they have to monetize it. If I can figure out how to get really talented people to do things which are way more impact driven because they have that worry of financials taken care of, or figure out businesses that will then support, like having businesses that just are pure profit to support the non-profit businesses / non-profit. However that works, I don't even know. And I don't even care that much because I know when I get to that stage, things are going to be so much different anyway. Maybe problems in the world will be so much obvious. I don't know if it's going to be animals, if it's going to be, weather, like the climate change. Like, I don't know. I'm not passionate about one thing or another. There's one thing I'm really passionate about is probably education of kids, like your boy, like our social media. I mean, it is so bad because everybody has 3 parents now. There is mom, dad, or just mom, in your situation, like just mom mostly, and then there's always a third parent, whether you like it or not. It's freaking social media. That's the third parent. And that's so bad. It is so bad.
It is so bad. I totally agree. And it's hard to shelter children from that in 2023 because it's everywhere you look and on every device and literally everything. So you have to keep them busy. Like you were saying, fill that time with other things so that they're not stuck with that other parent infiltrating your mind, because there's so much on social media that confuses children, and children are our future. So I love that you brought that up. It's really, really important to focus on the children. They're going to run the world one day.
I know. I'm sure you have that. You know that intimately so much more than me. I don't have kids. I don't know that intimately. I just observe it and I'm like, it's so bad.
It's so bad. And it's interesting on that topic. Before I had my son, when I knew I was going to have him, I told myself I wasn't going to let him listen to music or watch TV. And when you have them, you think you have all these ideas, like I'll just shelter them from all the sugar, all the bad stuff. It's so hard though to really stick to that in this world. So yeah, there's got to be more focus on that to help parents navigate those waters. Really cool. Okay, so if there's somebody listening right now that wants to start their own business, they're stuck in a 9-to-5 and they are not sure about the tech side. They're not sure what the social media game is, how to create the funnels. What is the piece of advice that you would give them?
Forget about funnels. Forget about any of that stuff. You need to do a few very simple steps. The first step is get a skill. Doesn't matter what the skill is. You have graphic design skill, branding skills, WordPress. I remember you did coding when you're young. You got those skills. Great. Whatever that skill is, really doesn't matter. Pick a freaking skill and go find a client today that you can deliver that skill on. Anything else, you're honestly just overcomplicating it. Like you don't need, open a social media account. Don't even worry about scheduling posts and creating content, going on your stories. Like, what are you doing? Go get a customer that's going to pay you something. And if you're not comfortable asking for money yet, get a customer that's willing to give you a legitimate chance to work with, even if it's for free. Although I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's okay. It's better than anything else you could possibly do. And just do that, because number one, you'll step out of your comfort zone right away. You'll do the things that actually matter, because if you're doing anything else, honestly, you're just spending time on the wrong things. And like I was saying about, we're talking about, okay, if you're not going to scroll on social media, what are you going to do? Well, what you should do is go find customers. You know what I mean? Like if you want to do what really matters, is go find customers. And if you're not doing that, you really are wasting your time. So like you really should spend 80% of it. And I'm in the tech space. To me, I make a living, help with their funnels and automations and all that stuff. And that's all great. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Go get a customer, because these funnels aren't going to fill themselves. Right. So Funnels are there to automate what's already there, not automating the thin air, So that's what I would honestly say. Get a skill. If you don't have one, go get a customer. And it doesn't matter what skill it is, because that skill, it might be a skill that will come handy later anyway. So there'll be like a transferable aspect. That's the beauty of online business and stuff like that. Things are really transferable, like if you're going to go and learn video editing, which is a great skill to start with, you'll be able to then use video editing for your own content. You know what I mean? So it's always going to be that transferability. And also that's how you'll learn if you like something, if you enjoy it. Like do you like it even? You know what I mean? Maybe you'll do video editing. You're like, I hate it so much. I do not want to do that for a client ever again. I hated that experience. Okay, great. Go get a different skill. Go figure out something else. You know what I mean?
That is solid advice. I think that more people need to just go out there and try different things to even figure out what they're going to do. They're not trying enough things to know what they like. I had a past of trying many different artistic things in the past. Like I did furniture, I did murals, then I went into the web design and graphic design because I realized I didn't love those things. They were fun, but I just didn't love spending my time on it. But you don't know that till you try it. So I love your advice. And then getting those customers is really about creating the connection. It's really just about heart-to-heart connections with people and how you can serve them. And that becomes your customer at the end of the day. But you can't serve them if you don't have a service or a skill to serve with, right? So yes, great tips. I love that so much. And this whole discussion was so inspiring to me. I learned so much about your story and your background, and it's just mind-blowing to know where you came from and where you were able to take your life and take charge of your path. And now you're on to so bigger and better things. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for today. You were literally so inspiring and such a ball of light. It just, I can feel your energy on the screen. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, for everybody watching and listening, where can they follow you at, and what is your website?
Yeah, if you just go to Eran Bucai, eranbucai.com, it's a good place to start. Honestly, just Google my name, you'll find me, social media, YouTube, but I'm really accessible, whether it's Messenger or Instagram or YouTube. I'm really, really accessible. So just go to my website, eranbucai.com. It's good enough. And you'll be able to sign up. Like if you join my list, for example, you'll get an automatic email. You just reply. I reply to everything. I see everything. I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I'll be onto it. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And so feel free to reach out. I don't have any high ticket courses to sell. Like speaking of coaches and fake coaches, I have 0 high ticket coaching to sell coaching programs, courses. I refuse. I do only low ticket stuff and only mostly subscription based, because, I just think there's so much, starting a business is so simple. It's just work that's required. And if you just follow do the hard things that you actually need to do, it's really not that difficult. It's really not rocket science. So I really just focus on facilitating these things. And so there's no fear of reaching out and saying hi, I won't bite.
Yes. And that's music to their ears, especially in today's economy, to know that your prices are affordable, your services are attainable. So you're helping so many people by keeping that promise of no high ticket offers. And for those of you listening on the audio version, his name is spelled EranBucai.com. You can go check out his website. Make sure you give him a follow on social media as well, and follow along his journey, because he's up to so many amazing new things. Anyways, thank you all for being here today. As always, I'm your host, Elena Mitchell, and this is the Passion and Persistence podcast, where with passion and persistence, anything is possible.